Hello, hello. Welcome to another edition of Author's Corner. I am your host, Stephanie Carter, and I am here today with another fabulous author. She has been a friend of mine and a friend of my husband, Philip Carter, for many, many, many years, going on 20 years or so. She is a doctor, she is a singer, she is a mother, she is a wife, and she now can add author to her list of titles. Her book is Get Well, okay? Get Well with an exclamation point. Get Well, making the wellness of your mind, body, and spirit a priority. And I think nowadays, with going on with this ongoing pandemic, this is something that we definitely need. And I definitely think it's a book that you should pick up as soon as you look at this segment. I want to introduce to you Dr. and I'll say Doctor and my friend, Dr. Darlene Ifill-Taylor. Darlene, I want to introduce you and I want to welcome you to Author's Corner. How are you?
Hey, Steph. I'm good. I'm good. We had the time change, and so I think everybody's a little tired this morning. But aside from that, I'm doing well.
Oh my goodness,
And
don't get
thanks
me
for having
started on this.
me. Right.
I have been discombobulated ever since Saturday night. But
Right.
thank you for joining me today. And I am very, very excited about talking about this book. I mentioned to you earlier, I read this book in one read. I read this on the way to Florida. On the flight to Florida, that's usually 2 hours, and I was able to read all of it in 2 hours. I could not put it down. So let's talk about what you do. I mean, I said that you're a doctor.
Mhm.
So say exactly what is your specialty in health?
Yeah. So I am a psychiatrist, physician, and I'm really glad you're asking that question because people all the time say, "Well, how's that different than a psychologist? And how's that different than a clinical social worker?" So the psychiatrist is usually the head of the team of mental health professionals that all of which kind of come together to try to help people through whatever they're going through. The psychiatrist is an MD, so the psychiatrist is a prescriber, and now we have psychiatric nurse practitioners that can also prescribe because the shortage of psychiatrists is, it's significant, and we really need that care out there. But the psychiatrist is the person traditionally that prescribes. Back in my day, I'm no spring chicken. Back in my day, psychiatrists also did psychotherapy, and so I'm one of the psychiatrists that's trained in psychotherapy. So I do therapy and medication management. I run groups, and I do TMS, which is it's called transcranial magnetic stimulation, which is it's a treatment for medication resistant depression that uses MRI technology. So I do that, and I have my private practice. I have some patients that are only seeing me for therapy. I have some patients that see me for therapy and medication, some patients that see me for medication alone. And then I have TMS patients. And most recently, I added in Spravato, which is nasal ketamine, which has also been found to treat medication resistant depression. So I'm just, my whole career has been this. I started in pediatrics and switched over to psychiatry when I realized that's where I was called. And I've been doing this for a long time. And I'm so thankful that people now are understanding the importance of taking care of our mental health. So it's a good time. It's a good time to be a psychiatrist.
And that was actually I was that was leading into my next question. How has psychiatry and how has the field that you specialize in, how has that grown or how has that changed in the last two
Oh,
years?
yeah. I mean, I can just speak in terms of, two things. One, scientifically, it's grown by leaps and bounds. And so, for instance, TMS and Spravato that I just spoke of, those are cutting edge technologies that are being used now to help people who just don't respond to medications or have too many side effects to medications. And then the second way I'll talk about it is in terms of perception. So when I started in psychiatry, I remember I did my internship in pediatrics, and then I switched to psychiatry, and I even had family members who were like, psychiatry?
Mm.
Why psychiatry? And really, it was just a really, that was back in, that was in the very early 90s. And so I knew that I was called to this, and I would say to people, well, God made me, and He made me a psychiatrist, I can assure you, you know. And there was a lot of separation between the church and psychiatry and all of
Yeah.
that. And there's been such a change over these years. It's been so refreshing to see. And then, now we've gone even further with the pandemic. People really do understand that if you're not looking at your mental health as well, you're really missing something. So it's interesting because my wellness center, Three Strand Wellness, I perceived that about 5 or 6 years ago, opened it August right before the pandemic.
Wow.
And I opened it in order for people I wanted to change minds. That was my whole thing. How do I change minds? How do I get people to understand that wellness doesn't stop at the neck? And that if they're not including their mental health in their physical wellness and their spiritual wellness and their nutrition and all of that, then they're not totally well. And so how do I do that? And how do I attend to people who are caregivers and people who are called to the healthcare field, people who are parents, people who are parents of kids with special needs. I just had a very target group of police officers. Um, so I opened Three Strand for that. And then the pandemic happened, and I had massage therapy, I had yoga and meditation. We still have those modalities. I had therapy, medication management for mental health, nutrition, and then I had a fitness trainer. And pretty much all of that had to close down. The pandemic happened and we couldn't do face to face. We went to Zoom like this for Zoom, or I used Zoom for it, and to continue to keep patients kind of hanging in there, but for things like TMS, which is a hands-on treatment, all through the pandemic. I just had to go treat patients. We really felt like it was going to be not appropriate because we knew that the mental health piece was going to become really significant. And it did. We have so many people that, their depression and their anxiety that they were sort of managing before the pandemic happened, and then they couldn't manage it. So it was very interesting to me because you asked about the growth in development of psychiatry, basically. And, then COVID happened. And then everything that I'd been talking about for years in terms of self-care and wellness and
Mm-hmm.
integration of all of those things became more mainstream, and people understood the importance of that. So it's been really refreshing to see that during my career, because it could have
Yes.
happened after my career, but
Yeah.
I've seen it both ways.
And it seemed like all of those points, the anxiety management and the yoga, the meditation, all of these you address in this book.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about the book actually.
hmm
So when did you release it? Did you release it before the pandemic, or was it
I released it the December of the pandemic, like that first December. And
okay?
that was just more of a drive on my part. I mean, we didn't even know at that point that the pandemic was going to be as extensive as it's been.
Right.
But on my part, I just felt like I just need to get this out and forward. And I am so busy with my patients and my singing, and so sitting down and just putting pen to paper. Whoa. And so I really pressed to get it out. And so it came out right then. Um, and, I haven't had anybody who's read it feel that they weren't encouraged and blessed by it. So I'm thankful.
Absolutely. And how did you decide on the title? The title is Get Well. I mean, it's like, boom, get well, making the wellness of your mind, body, and spirit a priority.
So the first part of it with the exclamation point is more like a command.
Yeah.
It's just do it. Get well. Okay. And then I use that because I wanted people to understand that when we talk about being well, we have to include mental health. It's just like, I say all the time, if you run 5 miles a day and you've got a 12 pack, but you are depressed, you can't sleep, you're anxious, you're not well. So the second part of the title is to just get people to understand that if you can focus on yourself, we have a hashtag at Three Strand Wellness that we have our t-shirts and the back says hashtag self-care isn't selfish. That if you could get
Wow.
yourself to, yeah, you can order those t-shirts. If you can get yourself to really focus on your own self-care, then you have more in your tank to take care of other people. And so, um, it always brings me to caregivers that,
Yeah.
have to put out and take care of, whether it's their parents or their special needs child or their sibling, spouse, and the kind of rundown that happens. I mean, the burnout that happens in that scenario. And in the scenario of medicine, it's a lot. And so many doctors, many nurses, I think people were much more cognizant of that watching nurses during the pandemic. Many doctors and nurses burn out,
Yeah.
but not just in the healthcare field, in the corporate world,
Mhm.
in every form of, wherever we work, where particularly if it's a service,
Mhm.
clergy burnout,
Yes.
police officers burnout, people who are first responders.
Yeah.
And I wanted to really try to have the center and the book focus on what can you do for yourself to make things a little bit easier.
Yeah.
And a lot of times our jobs are so intense, we're the last on the list if we're on it at all. And I always say to my patients, uh, you don't always have to be number one on your list, but you do at least need to be on your list. You need to
Mm.
be on your list.
Wow.
And we just don't think that way, particularly if we're givers. So I really wanted to capture the attention of, so the exclamation point is to capture attention as well.
Mhm.
For people who, um, they know on the plane, we've been told every time we fly, put on your oxygen mask first and then help your children, right?
Yep. That's right.
I don't know how many of us would do it. I mean, I'm so thankful to have never been in this situation. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I think
Absolutely.
it's a great analog for, it's just what we do with our lives,
Yeah.
and we just don't focus on taking care of ourselves first, and then getting what we need so that we have the juice,
Mhm.
to help other people have what they need in our
Mhm.
lives. So that's what I'm trying to have people focus on.
And that is wonderful, and that is so needed because you hear of so many people getting burnt out. I mean, the givers and, like you said, the first responders, the
Hmm.
caretakers, even us as moms.
Absolutely.
When I do a dinner, I'm the last one to eat because I want to make sure that
Right.
everyone else is served
Right.
and everyone else is being taken care of. So I definitely understand what you mean. I was going to actually read a quote from your book, something from your book, but
Hmm.
that really shocked me. And it was talking about anxiety management.
Hmm.
And is anxiety management is one of the strongest drives that human beings have in their day-to-day lives. Can you
Absolutely.
expound on that? I thought that was very telling
Yeah,
statement.
yeah. So it's one of the things that people don't realize they're doing most of the time. And I've said this to people for years. Like, you just need to understand. They probably don't mean it, but they're trying to manage their anxiety. Because when we try to manage our anxiety, it potentially is going to affect other people. Okay. The thing is, most people are not aware that they're trying to manage their anxiety.
And what is exactly anxiety? What is the
So
clinical term for it?
Anxiety. So all of us are supposed to have be able to be anxious. Okay, if you're never able to be anxious, something didn't get wired correctly,
Okay.
right? We need anxiety for our fight or flight. Okay,
Yes.
we need anxiety if we're walking across the street and we didn't know the car was making the turn. and your whole system does that. You need that. That's going to make you move faster. It's going to make you more alert. It's going to make you right. So anxiety in and of itself is not a negative. Like people will say, I have anxiety.
Yeah.
Okay, if you're getting ready to go on stage, if you're getting ready to speak in front of your class, if you're getting, you hear many actors and actresses say, oh yeah, no, I definitely get anxious. That gives them an edge, just that little thing, right? When that little thing becomes gigantic and you're constantly physiologically and mentally feeling, it's usually the physiologic piece that really gets people, but mentally as well, because it affects the sleep. When it's outside of the realm of fight or flight, every day, every night, can't sleep, can't think through things in a calm way so that you can make a rational decision, can't perform at work, can't perform in front, then we have an anxiety disorder. So it's really the magnitude of the anxiety, sort of the depth and the length and the breadth of the anxiety that takes it over the line from being just what we are supposed to have in appropriate situations and what we're not.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so you don't want someone to not have any anxiety because, again, when I say run, you better run. If I say we're out in the dark, you know what I'm saying? So
Exactly.
So I don't want you to be like, run. No, it'll be fine. No, I want you to go ahead and run with me.
Yeah.
So there's a reason to be anxious. But
Right.
when it goes far where it is never ending and it's really not even connected necessarily to anything, to an event, it's just there. Then we have a problem.
And you said it's one of the strongest drives that a lot of things that we do that we don't even realize that we're doing.
Because anxiety is noxious. It's
Yeah.
a very noxious feeling, right? Any of us have been anxious.
Yeah.
The idea of feeling that all day, oh my God. Okay, it's very, and so there are things that cause us anxiety that we don't even know it made us anxious. So it might be your wife always finds a way to not go to the in-laws' house. Okay. And it might be, well, I just know you don't like my mom. What are you talking about? I love her. No, I just know you don't like. Why do you say that? Because whenever I'm going over there, you always seem to find a way to not go. And she might not even know that she finds a way to not go. If when she goes to her mother-in-law's, there's something in the scenario that causes her anxiety.
Okay.
Okay. So we're very quick to notice when something makes us angry, right? Or if something makes us sad or something makes us happy. But if something makes us anxious, we're not as quick to notice that. And we do things to make the feeling go away.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So sometimes the anxiety that's caused by something can be something that you really notice, but it also can be something that you really don't notice. So that's why often people who have anxiety disorders become alcoholics. Often, not always, often though. And we call it, the person was self-medicating. So they had an anxiety disorder. It was not diagnosed, in part because people are just starting to understand that you have to go get evaluated. And so they take it into their own hands. They don't know. They just know that they feel better after they have the beverage. After they have the drink. Okay. And some people do that and it never becomes a problem. And some people do that and they have a family history and it becomes a problem. Or the use of drugs or the overuse of sex so these things of pleasure or overeating, these things of pleasure that decrease anxiety. So for instance, the reason why overeating can become such an addiction so quickly is because food is what we call an anxiolytic. Food does decrease anxiety in the brain, except the time that it does it is so brief that then you want it again.
Okay. You want more of it.
So it's not, if food was an anxiolytic and it lasted all day, then great.
There'll be no need to eat.
Right. But if you do, suffer with anxiety and you don't know it, and you eat and realize that when you eat you feel better, it will make you keep doing that.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So
And
that's
it's a,
why anxiety is such an important piece.
yeah, that I mean that's what hit me was so
Hmm.
striking. And just going through the book, you touch things to help with your mind, your body, and your spirit. And you talk about exercise. You talk about the different types of exercises. You talk about I know I have all this stuff written down. You talk about massages, and you talk about even yoga and
Hmm.
meditation,
Yes.
and I find all of that fascinating. But even so, towards the end of the book, when you talk about forgiveness,
Mm. I
and
had
you,
to include it. I
how,
had to include it.
oh my gosh, it was powerful. Because it says, but if we try to understand that forgiveness is for ourselves, not the person who offended us. So expand a little bit on that, because that is, I think, a important point
Yeah.
that people need to realize
Yeah.
when it
Yeah.
comes to forgiveness.
So the fallacy in forgiveness, the thing that people believe about forgiving someone is that they are doing it for the other person. And we do grant forgiveness to,
Yes.
right? If someone asks us to forgive them, we that's lovely. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's beautiful and you should do it. But people then will say, well, what about the person who doesn't ask for forgiveness? What about my parent that's already passed on? Or what about the school friend from elementary school? Okay, so there's something more to forgiveness than the person asked you to forgive them and you granted them that. Forgiveness, but in and of itself, just means the person no longer owes you a debt.
Mm.
That's what forgiveness means. So when we walk around for our whole lives not forgiving, it's baggage that we're really carrying. The other person may not even know that you haven't forgiven them. They may
Right.
not even know what they did. And even if they knew, they may not even be able to perceive it in the way that they need to in order to be able to give you some peace.
Mm-hmm.
Your peace is going to come from you doing spiritually what you're called to do, and we are called to forgive. That's just the way it is.
Absolutely.
The other fallacy is that people think, well, if I forgive the person, then they're going to believe it was all right what they did,
Mm-hmm. Right.
and that's not the case at all. If that person then believes that because you forgave them, that's on them. The forgiveness is for you. The
Mm-hmm.
forgiveness means I'm just not carrying that junk around with me anymore. I don't know what their story was. I don't know how they were raised. Maybe there was some. I'm not even getting into that. Okay, I'm gonna grant the forgiveness because I'm not gonna carry. I'm not. I call it in my work with patients. I call it wearing somebody else's coat.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you just walk around and you
Right.
knew you were uncomfortable. And you're like, it doesn't even really fit. And then you look at the label and it has the other person's name in it. It's not
Yep.
even your coat. You're not supposed to be wearing that.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so I really encourage people to get on the forgiveness journey. Forgiveness is not, people think, well, I can't do it. I can't forgive him. I can't forgive her for that.
Mm.
Okay, wait a minute. Now you're right. You can't. If you take the stance that you can't, then I guess you can't. You know, you're determining that. Okay, but forgiveness is a journey. All I ask people is to get on the road. You don't
Mm-hmm.
have to be
Wow.
there today. You don't have to be there today. Just
Amen.
and you can ask God for it. I know that I'm supposed to forgive, and I'm gonna need your help with this, Father, because I don't feel like I have it in me.
Yeah.
Help
Yeah.
me to forgive, and I'm telling you, God will. He
Wow.
absolutely will. So it's because in your heart you want to do it. He'll help, and things will happen that kind of allow for that.
Mm.
Just let it be, and things will happen in life that will allow you to forgive. Whether it's somebody else, you did something that you kind of thought to yourself, oh, but I guess I did that too, or whatever it is that will happen. Something will release you from that burden because unforgiveness is an absolute burden.
Right.
It's
Right.
just a burden. It keeps you not well. And when you when you continue, this is the last word on, because the forgiveness thing is huge,
Oh, it is
but it's huge.
humongous.
But the last word is when you keep carrying that, the end has to be bitterness.
Wow. The end is bitterness.
The end of unforgiveness is bitterness, and bitterness will kill you. It kills your spirit. Bitterness will kill your body. Bitterness will kill your mind. You just don't want to be there.
That's
People
why
who are
forgiveness is so important to self.
for
Is a
your
great part of self care.
for yourself, not for the other person. If
Wow.
they ask you for forgiveness, by all means, try your best to grant it. But if they don't ask, it doesn't.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
and oh wait, I'm sorry. There's one other thing. Because you forgive somebody doesn't mean you have to let them in your life. People always think, well, if I grant forgiveness, then that means that person's going to think it was all right, and then we'll just go back to the way things were.
Yeah.
No, you granting forgiveness does not mean that person has to stay in your life or stay close to you or any of those things. People teach you who they are in your life. I say that you can have people be Mars and you can have people be Neptune.
You can love them from afar.
Hello, they're in your galaxy. You know what I mean? But they don't have to be one of your moons. They don't have to have gravitational pull.
Oh,
You don't have to see
say
them in
that.
all of their iterations,
Yeah.
right? They can
Right.
be Pluto. We know it's there. Okay, so the person does not. You can decide for yourself. It's part of your wellness. This person cannot stay in my life that way, but I'm going to grant forgiveness. And
Wow.
people just don't know you can do both.
Well, I want to tell our audience they need to go to Amazon right now and they need to purchase Get Well, making the wellness of your mind, body, and spirit a priority. They need to go right now and order the book. So tell us, besides Amazon, is there any other place that our audience can order your book?
No, it's on Amazon. If they just write in my name, Darlene Ifill-Taylor, it'll come right up. And that's where
Okay.
it is right now. And they could. I mean, I have copies. Certainly, people who know me get it from me.
Hmm.
But for anybody else, I think Amazon is the easiest way to get it.
Okay, so go to Amazon.com
Mm-hmm.
and type in Dr. Darlene Eiffel
Just
Taylor, and that's Ifill
mm-hmm.
Taylor,
It's
uh,
IFILL hyphen TAY.
hyphen Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
And in the search bar, it should come right up. Please get your copy. It will be a blessing to your mind, your body, and your soul.
Mm-hmm.
So, Dr. Darlene, what is next? Is this going to be it for you as an author, or should we expect
So,
more of this coming from you in the
so,
future?
so Stephanie, I wrote a book. So my daughter's. I wrote a book 20 years ago, a children's book about a child with ADHD,
Okay.
and I've never published it. So I've been an author. I just never, I'm not a published
It's
author.
just never been published.
It's
Gotcha.
never been published. I've always been a writer in my spirit. It's really been time. It's been time, and it's been. I have to be diligent in a way that I'm so exhausted a lot of the time. I can't be disciplined in the way that I need to be.
Hmm.
Having said that, yes, I definitely I want to put some more of these out, and even if they remain in this where they're short and get the point across to you,
Hmm.
I would love to do that. So you pray for me, and I'll pray for you.
We definitely will, because we definitely need this type of information to people
Yeah.
all over the world need this type of information. Self-care is so important, especially now,
Mm-hmm.
and we can teach others how
Mm-hmm.
to take care of, because it seems like when we are better,
Yeah,
then we can be better for the people around us.
that's exactly right.
So what you are the founder and proprietor for Three Strand Wellness in
Mm-hmm.
Charlotte, North Carolina. So let's
Yeah,
talk a little about that,
yeah.
especially for people, our audience that are in the Charlotte, North Carolina area.
Mm-hmm. Come on in. So I am the psychiatrist, and as I mentioned earlier, I do psychotherapy and medication management, and then I have a psychiatric nurse practitioner that does medication management as well. I have a therapist. In particular, I have a DBT therapist. I've really wanted that. DBT is called dialectical behavioral therapy, and it's trauma therapy. So
Okay.
it's trauma directed therapy. And so she's come on board, and that's been wonderful.
Great.
Trauma is in the book as well, because
Yes.
I had to say something about it because it's such a big deal. So
Yeah.
we do have a trauma therapist. And then we have a nutritionist who sees patients on Zoom. Our yoga class is on Zoom. Yoga and meditation is on Zoom.
Oh, okay.
I'm in the class, and so my two best friends, one who's in Memphis and one who's in Houston, we're actually in the yoga class together. We never thought that would happen. And it's taught me to meditate, which is huge for me, because as you can hear me, I keep talking about how busy I am.
Yes.
Meditation, I just didn't take the time to really learn it and be able to quiet my mind that way. So it's been wonderful learning that. And the only thing that I've let go of, and we still have massage, and I've just started with another massage therapist who's awesome. What I've let go of is the personal trainer. So we
Okay.
had a personal trainer for people who wanted personal training, but they didn't want to go or have the person come to their house or go somewhere that they could. So, but now that part we're taking out because we took on a music therapist,
Mm.
and yes,
Okay.
and so I just changed everything around. So we took on a music therapist, and we're looking for an art therapist. So
Wonderful.
just trying to have holistic modalities for people to, I just wanted to have sort of wraparound care on an
Uh-huh.
outpatient basis. Those are the kinds of modalities that you can get inpatient. Massage is not one, but art therapy and music therapy you can. And I wanted to have people be able to access that on an outpatient basis.
Okay, great. So, um, you can actually offer services for people outside of the Charlotte, North Carolina area,
For some
including
things, yeah,
for some things.
they can't have a
Okay.
massage unless they're here,
Okay.
but they can
Right.
be but they can be in the yoga and meditation class,
Okay.
and their therapy can be. I mean, everybody's doing therapy online now, but our DBT therapist is online, so that's wonderful. And medication management is also online. So
Okay.
most of the
Great.
services. Mm-hmm.
So, audience, if you're looking for a holistic alternative medicine, or you're looking for, of course, not massage, but yoga and meditation, Dr. Darlene, what is your website?
The website is www.threestrandwellness.com. And the three is written out, THREE, and the strand has no S at the end.
Okay. Okay.
www.threestrandwellness.com. And all of everything that's offered there is on the website.
Okay, great. So please, please, please go to Amazon to buy her book and go to her website to look at the services that Three Strand Wellness provides. Okay, well, we are almost at the end of this. I want to say thank you so much for joining me
Thank you for having
today. It was a wonderful conversation and very enlightening. As I said, it was a wonderful book. I learned a lot, even learning about the different uh, massages. Was very, very
me. Hmm.
inspirational as well as encouraging to me. So, can you please leave us with some inspiration for our audience in this time?
Hmm. Yeah, so this has been a really, really tough time. And, feels like we're coming out of it. I'm going to first say to people, continue to be vigilant, just in case in the fall we have another variant, which we certainly could. So don't go all the way out there yet. Um, Now we have the war going on in Ukraine. We have all of the social issues that we've had highlighted by George Floyd and Breonna, and
Yes,
all of that's going on. It's really tough for our spirits,
yes.
and our young people are really, really suffering
Hmm.
because they don't know what's going to be going on. I mean, they're feeling really insecure. I would say, as a word of encouragement, there's nothing new under the sun. We've had world wars, and people just still had to go to school and still had to excel and still had to do well, and we still have to do that. I would just say, you know if you need to add in some wellness principles into your life. Only you know if you're really taking care of yourself. And if you're not taking care of yourself, it's really going to be a service to everybody who loves you for you to kind of turn that corner and add in one thing. Add in, now the weather is changing, add in a 20-minute walk a day. It doesn't have to be everything, but just know if you're not paying attention to one, the other two are going to be out of balance.
Right.
Mind, body, and spirit.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for that. And that thing you said about self-care is not selfish. Please, everyone, remember that self-care, taking care of yourself, there's nothing wrong with that.
And
And
you
that
can
actually helps it.
and you can go to our email and you can order those t-shirts. It's Three
Yes.
Strand Wellness on the front. It's very pretty, but the back is hashtag self-care isn't selfish, because I'm trying to get people to, a lot of people think of it that way. Going to
Okay.
have a massage is not being selfish.
Nothing wrong with that. And we're going to put that all on the bottom of the screen, as well as we're going to put it at the end of this broadcast to let everyone know so they can see. But thank you so much, Dr. Darlene Ifill-Taylor. Say hello to your wonderful husband and your wonderful kids, your 3 kids,
Same on your
and
side. Say hello to everybody. I miss you guys. We love Charlotte though. So
we
that's
miss
it.
you too.
It's warm. It's warm. I have to tell you, it's gorgeous.
Yes, because this past weekend, whoo, my
I don't want to
goodness.
do any of that. We don't even own a snow shovel. I love it. All right. Thanks so
Well,
much.
thank you so much. And thank you, audience, for tuning in to Author's Corner. And we will see you next time. Take care. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye. Thank you.